Welcome to the Mulatto History Channel. The Mulatto History Channel is dedicated to sharing and exploring mulatto history around the world. So tune in and enjoy the history lessons that I share with you on this channel. The Mulatto History Channel is dedicated to sharing our history, our story, and our voice. Is part of my series, right, of mulatto icons. So for this edition, we're going to be talking about mulatto icons in Europe. So of course, the kind of colloquial, more, common term you'll hear is mixed race. But as we've already demonstrated, mixed race is very broad and ambiguous. It doesn't specify the kind of genetic and heritage makeup of what we want to identify. This is kind of what's commonly you'll see, mixed race, right, correctly. Further consideration of racial identity in European history, how mixed race people have contributed to stories of Europe. Now, with this particular article, there's about 5 or 6 different individuals, but today I'm going to focus more so on one, and I'll get to that in a little bit. So published October 26, 2021 by Joanna Fisher, Professor of English and Women's Studies, Co-Director, Women and Gender Studies. It's interesting, they talk about, the thing about women and gender studies. When you think about gender studies, they are more so only kind of studying one specific gender. So the lens is it's definitely a gynofocal lens. The viewpoint is definitely female-centered when you think about gender studies. They're not necessarily studying the male gender. It's from my understanding. It's definitely more so female-focused. Professor of English, Women's Studies, Co-Director, Women, Gender Studies, right? So I kind of already reiterated on that. Going into this article, the story of the presence of people of color. There you go. So we already went over the whole mixed race and then people of color. So they're kind of convoluting these things, right? And that's kind of what my job here to do for you is to dissect this and put in the appropriate terminology so we have a clear understanding of who has really contributed to what. Whose history are we talking about? So we don't get kind of lost in the sauce, so to speak, and kind of washed over and erased for all intents and purposes. Story of the presence of POC, people of color in Europe. European history cannot be complete without the acknowledgement of mixed race peoples. It is not enough to simply drop people of mixed race into a race group that suits the telling of European history, and if acknowledged, would complicate the claim for cultural purity. People of mixed race have contributed to the stories of Europe in profound and important ways that attest to the struggle to find a place of acceptance in European life. These contributions are complicated by the lack of an identifiable understanding of what mixed race means in the course of history. Here's a painting here. It says Di Mulata y Española Morica. Definitely get into that. So if you guys have any questions or any comments or concerns or any feedback, go ahead and leave it in the chat and I'll be happy to check it out and reply. So we have here a painting. It is first not the story of America where a drop of black blood meant that person was identified as black and as such was denied rights. Well, that goes back to the Racial Integrity Act of 1924, which already demonstrated kind of the severe heightened sense of the racial binary nature in America with the 1924 Racial Integrity Act in Virginia, which essentially one-dropped mulatto people into the black community, right? So the basis of this identification clearly placed one in a particular social and legal category, and this meant, ironically, one's identification was not predicated on an individual understanding of what the person understood to be, but an identity socially and legally constructed by those in power to do so. This is, of course, harmful. Identity was often based on what was perceived to be the inferior racial group by Western views. It is only recently that people of mixed race have begun to accept the reality of there being of more than one racial group and to advocate for a more nuanced discussion about race overall that includes their own reality. True indeed. To look at some of the contributions of mixed race people, meaning mulattoes, overwhelmingly, okay, people in a narrative of European history, we might consider a few important examples of people who made this narrative distinct. Now, this is the main gentleman that I'll be talking about today. He's obviously in the thumbnail. His name, obviously, I'm an native English speaker, so he's French ancestry, so my French, I don't know any French, I apologize. So I apologize if I don't pronounce his name correctly. The 18th century composer known as Chevalier de Saint-Georges. So obviously I know I, didn't pronounce it in its accuracy as far as French, but Chevalier de Saint-Georges, composer, musician. We're going to talk about him mainly today, whose actual name was Joseph Bologne. He was born of a white plantation owner and an enslaved mother. He was an actual court composer in the court of Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette. He was an accomplished musician, composer, polymath, and officer in the French army. Interestingly, he was born before Mozart, and although much of his musical compositions were lost, the influence he had on the music Mozart composed much later is difficult to deny. He was widely known in the world, even in America. Thus, the representation in the classical age of music is not complete without acknowledging his presence in that story. The 19th century people of mixed race also contributed to the arts. For example, Samuel Coleridge Taylor, who was a noted composer and conductor from England. Okay, so I'm going to go on and finish some of these findings here, but then I'm definitely going to dive back into this gentleman. So just bear with me as I move along, and I'll go right back to this gentleman here. So another gentleman here. Important literary writers such as Alexander Pushkin and Alexander Dumas made contributions to the Romantic period of the 19th century, and although they are well known as writers, it surprises many readers to know they were of mixed race. Here we have another painting here. Literary characters of mixed race make appearances in the narratives of the Middle Ages, including such figures as Sir Moran, a knight in King Arthur's court, Othello the Moor, and Fearfez in Eshtabash Parzival. I apologize for my pronunciation, you guys. But here's a portrait here. Other figures from the Renaissance period, for example, include Alessandro di Medici, the first Duke of Florentine Republic, who is said to have been born to a servant of African descent, and the ruler of Florence, Lorenzo di. So this gentleman, I will be talking about him in the future. Okay, this is this gentleman right here, Alessandro di Medici. In the 18th century, Peruvian priest Father Martin de Porres was the son of a Spanish nobleman and a formerly enslaved woman of African indigenous descent, and was considered the patron saint of mixed race people. So clearly you could say fall into the mulatto category. It says indigenous and African, then also Spanish. So multiracial, I guess mixed race is kind of the general broad term we use. Other people use. Me specifically, I definitely refer to people I can identify as a mulatto as such. These examples tell a much more complex story of European social and cultural history. Okay. In the end, there is much to do by scholars to contribute to a more complete understanding of the rich contributions made to European history by people of color. some of these people, like, I don't know, does he look like he has any color? They'd say he's mixed race, but you see how the broad and ambiguous terms they refer to as, is this a person of color? Or as synthetic weave, Cynthia G, she would say a person of no color, some of the crazy divester types. But yeah, just want to kind of throw that out there as far as how they're kind of interchangeable. You look at a lot of these kind of scholarly, writings and articles, how they put the two words together, people of color, or quote black, when, the guy came out of a white vagina, but they're saying he's black, right? Or mixed race. So I think mulatto, for me, when I identify specific people, it specifies things accurately. Okay, so here we go. People such as writers James McBride, in his book The Color of Water, former American President Barack Obama, and Meghan Markle, to name a few, are leading voices in advocating for these important conversations about race and mixed race identities. It is these conversations that will mean a reconsideration of European history, one that will be closer to the reality of the presence of mixed race people and their contributions to the history. It is an exciting time to have this conversation as we move deeper into the 21st century, a century where the presence of mixed race peoples will be a significant demographic, one that can no longer be denied. That's why I say we are the future, and the future is ours. But then it connects here Black history, but then you specify mixed race peoples. But the interesting thing, like you said, mixed race people, broad and ambiguous, they highlighted here Barack Obama, Meghan Markle. These are mulatto people, okay? Because what's going to happen is when they bring up this whole mixed race thing, you're going to have someone who's Asian and Hispanic and white, or Black and Asian, or any other variation. They're going to come over and, try to kind of overlap the discussion, when a lot of these different variations, their experience is not the same as ours. I'm speaking for mulatto people. A lot of us definitely have it hard. I'm not playing the victim Olympics, but I'm just specifying the reality, especially here in America, where there's definitely a history between these groups. So I'm not with the whole, mixed is mixed foolishness that you'll hear from a lot of the other characters in some of the other channels. So on this channel, the Mulatto Vanguard, I'm very specific to the mulatto plight, and I could care less who it offends. So if it offends you, you're probably in the wrong place, to be honest with you. So I'm going to go back to this gentleman. It's a mulatto gentleman, has a white father, Black mother. I'm going to talk about him. Like I said, apologize for the pronunciation. Chevalier de Saint-Georges, classical composer. We're going to dive right into it. And he's also a former soldier, so a veteran, I might say. Joseph Bologne. Joseph Bologne, Chevalier de Saint-Georges, French composer, soldier, and Versailles. There's another portrait of him. Joseph Bologne, known as Chevalier de Saint-Georges, was an 18th century classical composer and conductor and champion fencer. So obviously he has this fencing sword in his hand right here in the portrait. His mixed race heritage, son of a white father and Black mother, shaped his life in the Parisian and French society in the 1700s. Okay, and then of course, I believe that would be a violin or a cello in the background, then sheet music here. Born in 1745 in Guadeloupe, Joseph Bologne was the son of Anne, known as Nanon, an enslaved woman of Senegalese origin. So that's Senegal, correct? West Africa. And Georges de Bologne, St. George, who was Nano's enslaver. Despite Nanon being the enslaved servant to his wife Elizabeth, George de Bologne acknowledged being the young Joseph's father and gave him his surname, part of which, de St. George's, was named after his plantations in Guadeloupe. In 1753, Georges took Joseph, then age 7, to France to be educated. Joseph was sent to a boarding school while his father returned to Guadeloupe. 2 years later, Georges and Nanon came to France and moved to an apartment in Paris Saint-Germain neighborhood. up to this point in French societies, Georges, Bologne, I apologize for the pronunciation, guys, for the names. They're not as common to me, had been a commoner in 1757. This changed when he was given the title Gentle Home Ordinaire de la Chambre d'Oro. See, Gentleman of the King's Chamber. Yeah, jeez. Joseph benefited greatly from his father's position in society, right? So Joseph definitely benefited greatly from his father's position in society. However, due to les codes nords, which are racist laws in France, which restricted the lives of black people from the 17th century, but they're saying people of color here, when noir in French means black. So these are black codes is what they're referring to. I'm saying they used the term people of color to kind of wish-wash things, right? They mix it in, people of color with black, with mixed race and all this other shit. And they're not really specifying things accurately. So that's definitely what my job here to do is when I read and dissect this type of stuff, is I want to lay things out so you guys have kind of a concrete feel and a level of accuracy moving forward. So it, there's nothing that's ambiguous and confusing. And I hope you guys can understand me. I really appreciate if you can. If you can, let me know in the chat, leave a comment, whatever. Watch the playback, hit the like button. Most importantly, the fact that you guys are here and you guys are listening. So I do greatly appreciate it. My job here is to educate you guys, to share information. And a lot of you guys help educate me as well. As you can see in the screen, the bottom of the screen, I have my email address there. You guys can always, send me an email with any findings that you have. I'll be glad to check it out and review it. A lot of you guys have already done that. I receive your guys' emails. I read all your guys' emails. Some of you guys inbox me on Instagram as well, and I appreciate it. So I will go over all that stuff and eventually broadcast, and I'm happy to do that. So thank you guys. So I'm learning from you as well as a lot of you are probably learning from me, which is great. That's the whole purpose of this. So continuing on, it says, I left off right here. All of these contexts contributed to the three careers and pursuits that Joseph simultaneously followed through his adult life: fencing, athlete, the military, and music composer. Definitely well-cultured and well-skilled as far as, the athleticism with fencing, of course, military service, serving his country, and then, of course, the music, so the art component. So here, obviously, we're well aware how fencing is kind of a traditional it's a European tradition. Definitely kind of associated, I would say, with high society, high class individuals as a sport, which is still a sport today, but it's not as common in America that I'm aware of. Maybe because the high class people participate, right? But definitely, from age 13, Joseph attended the Académie Royale Polytechnique des Arts. See all the French. It's I need to learn French, I guess, guys. Instead of Japanese and Spanish. Polytechnique des Arts de l'Éducation, where he learned fencing and horsemanship. Yeah. And this is interesting portrait here. Kind of looks like a woman, to be honest. The Chevalier de Saint-Georges, that, just the posturing and looks, I guess you would describe this as flamboyance. Is the terminology we use, flamboyance, especially with French society, where there's a lot more kind of, even the word, I believe, bougie, is kind of a French term, if I'm not mistaken. So where it's flamboyance, a lot of detail focused on the styles, the shoes, the stockings, the clothes, the jewels, the hair. So I believe this definitely looks like a woman from this portrait, and these would be gentlemen here, but I don't know, let me know, you guys. And so he progressed well, and within a few years, he became a champion fencer. So he was definitely an accomplished horseman, for sure. His arms were described as being faster than lightning. Joseph fought many duels and matches in France as well as in England. His supporting exploits, as well as being a charismatic and handsome man, made him famous, and he becomes a darling Parisian society. Here it looks like he's courting a woman. Here, definitely high society. It looks like I think that's the tip or the handle of a of his fencing sword. It kind of looks like that for me. I'm not sure what that is. And then here would be Rose giving this lady. I believe this picture is 1700, so I think it was probably obviously more common for people to walk around with swords. Um, I don't know. You think about today, you see people walking around with swords, you'd be like, shit, you know. But I don't know. I don't own any. I have some blades, but no swords per se. But I do want to get a collection and put them on my wall, but more Japanese style, like samurai swords, because I'm fascinated with the Bushido culture in Japan. So I'm definitely gonna add some of those to my collection. Military career. When he graduated in 1766, Joseph was made a gendarme du roi, officer of the king's bodyguard, and a chevalier, a member of orders of knighthood. From then on, Joseph would be known as the Chevalier de Saint-Georges. So he earned a title for excellence. And it's a merit-based society. You have to prove yourself, especially if you're a man. You're not born. I mean, there are some individuals, like the 1% rare individuals who are born kind of with wealth inheritance from their family passed down, where they don't have to work. Most men, you have to build yourself and have to work and prove yourself in society. And as this man himself did as well. So don't let these pro-whacks tell you that, the white man's using you to oppress us. You an agent to white supremacy. You have to challenge when these pro-whacks make these assertions. This man, served in the military. This man went to school. This man competed in fencing. Okay, this man had to put in work. It wasn't handed to him. And so it's our job to kind of help educate the public on the historical accuracy of this, and to challenge the pro-whack conspiracy theories that they push with, the book The Destruction of Black Civilization by Chancellor Williams, which most of your black nationalists, black identity extremists, they push those conspiracy theories on us. So it's very, very interesting. So yeah. Let me continue on with this article here. Let me see what we got. Okay. The French Revolution began in 1789 and deeply affected Joseph's later life. He decided to enlist in the Revolutionary Army, fighting for liberty and equality. In September 1792, a Cavalier of volunteers from the West Indies and Africa was founded, with Joseph serving as a colonel. It was called the Ligue Nationale des Américains and de Mindi, but was often later referred to as the League of St. George. Due to Joseph's outstanding performance, it was the first all-black army regiment in Europe. So one of the officers under his command was named Thomas Alexandre Dumas, future general-in-chief in the French army and father of the author of the Three Musketeers. We've all heard of that tale, for sure. So Thomas Alexandre Dumas. However, this career was often beset by accusations by others. Soon after being appointed colonel, he had to defend his role from accusations that he used military money to pay personal debts, most of which were based on rumors. An inquiry cleared Joseph of all charges. Later, during the Terror, when French revolutionaries turned on their own forces, which they would call mutiny, suspecting them of royalist sympathies, Joseph was dismissed and imprisoned for 18 months. He was also condemned by critics for being involved in non-revolutionary activities such as music. Following this, so this is the height of the French Revolution, that this gentleman got caught up in a lot of stuff. Rose to the top as far as, serving his country. The political kind of climate, you have to understand, not only in Europe, but specifically France, which kicked off a lot of the conflict throughout Europe. Imagine being alive at that time in his circumstances, right? He was condemned by critics for being involved in non-revolutionary activities such as music, right? Music is obviously the greatest joy of life. I know for me, what I like about this guy is he's a composer. classical music and the arts are not as like promoted, I guess you can say, in society. You kind of have to go searching for it. Definitely when I drive around town, if I'm doing errands or anything, I typically listen to classical music. Number one, I enjoy the music. It's very soothing and rhythmic and harmonious. Number one. Number two, it definitely kind of soothes my mind, from road rage. A lot of crazy drivers and stuff on the roads. And so classical music is definitely a great kind of antidote as far as like road rage and stuff. And so I definitely love classical music. So this guy's, it's an art form that can definitely heal you. So following this, he returned to Guadeloupe and attempted to regain his military rank and regiment. He eventually was reappointed colonel of the regiment, but there were already two other colonels in the regiment. Eventually, Joseph's military career ended in 1795. So I think this will be like the last section, musical achievements. They have a piece here I wanted to play as well, because he's composed a lot of what you'd call classical pieces. Musical achievements in 1769. The Parisins public was amazed to see Joseph, known as a great fencer and athlete, playing violin in Les Concerts des Amateurs, Gosek's orchestra with 70 members. 4 years later, Joseph became its conductor. He was ultimately disbanded in 1781 due to the lack of funding. So I believe this is him here, correct? Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, this is what a finding of him. Very interesting. But look at here at the bottom of it. It's like the wings, and then like the kind of they call that a sekel or a shekel, like that. It's like the staff with like the knife connected to it. But I believe this is him, if I'm not mistaken. Why it's here in the article. Over his long musical career, Joseph wrote many symphonies, sonatas, concertos, opera, and string quartets. So he's highly accomplished musical classical composer. Not only, like I said, a veteran, served the army, accomplished fencer as far as like the sport of the day, but also musically. So he's a very talented man. Definitely happy to share him and his excellence with you guys. So here's a banner. Obviously, like a lot of the words and terminology incorporated in this English reading is French, because it's a French gentleman we're talking about. So that's why I apologize if some of the words that I'm saying are not really coming across accurately, because I don't speak French at the moment. 6 concerto, yeah, concert, violin, for sure. Yeah, obviously I can't really read this except for the word here, Paris. But yeah, and then quartet, 6 quartet, yeah. Okay, so here we have a piece here. I believe it's like 3 minutes long. I'm gonna silence the music I have here. Okay, and then from this finding here, then I'm gonna actually play the music here and check it out. Oh, here we go. So yeah, definitely. There's a sample of that. Obviously, it's already actually pinned. It's in the description box, so you guys can check that out. I thought that was really interesting. I wanted to play that for you guys. Sample it out, get a flavor, a taste of it. I love classical music, but that's obviously, you can tell by the recording, that was recorded like 100 years ago, like when the recording technology was not as kind of astute as it is today, with like more modern kind of classical recordings. So in 1776, Joseph was proposed as the next director of the Paris Opera, which was struggling financially and artistically. However, three of the leading ladies presented a petition to Queen Mary Antoinette, saying that they would not be able to take orders from a mixed-race person, meaning a mulatto. You can't take orders from a mulatto. Mary Antoinette had been known to attend some of Joseph's concerts, and to keep the affair from embarrassing the queen, he withdrew his name from consideration. Very shameful. But in that day, 1776 is a very significant day here in America, or year in American history. I read about live art. Okay, 1 year later, so it was at 1777, his first opera, Ernestine, premiered at the Comédie Italienne. However, critical reception is not kind, and it closed after the premiere. Following this, Marie Antoinette preferred to experience music in less public settings. In her salon in Versailles, she limited the audience in her intimate circle and a few musicians. The Chevalier de Saint-Georges was invited to play music with the Queen, with the most likely playing the violin while she played the piano, forte piano. It's Versailles. I apologize. I'm telling you guys, bear with me. This is Versailles, if I'm not mistaken. This is the French palace, correct? Salon in Versailles. Yeah. So legacy: on June 10, 1799, St. George's died of bladder disease. Over 2 centuries since he lived, memory of the Chevalier de Saint-Georges faded. Not today, though, because that's my job here, to kind of share the history and legacy, so his legacy lives on. We know who he is. We have a historical account. We're sharing it with the public. And of course, you guys are informed, so you guys learn history today, so you can be proud. Many of his musical compositions were lost to history as a result of the French Revolution. So he definitely lived through this tumultuous time, right? The French Revolution, everything was changing. So through a large body of work can still be enjoyed now. Today, Joseph Bologne, the Chevalier de Saint-Georges, is best remembered as one of the earliest classical composers of mixed race and African ancestry, as well as groundbreaking military leader. So that definitely concludes this edition. This article is what I had to share with you guys today. So I have a couple people in the chat, let me see. Yeah, here he says you should do a stream on James Townsend, first black mayor of London. We have Hybrid the Vanquisher in the chat. And of course, you added, please do a piece on Elizabeth Cleveland Hardcastle, a mulatto slave trade, who traveled from the African island to South Carolina in 1768. Yeah, I'll definitely, take that into consideration. I appreciate that. Kind of what my job here, my mission here is to share findings with you guys. I'm very happy to do that.